I've seen an inordinate number of videos on my FYP over the last few days talking about the American Revolution, and it's people kind of going back and being like, what was it really about? And I think it's because a lot of people are having those conversations about our country right now. Like, what is our country right now really about? What do we stand for? And they want to look back at our history to try to figure out our national identity, our narrative, which is part of what history is for. And I think that talking about the American Revolution is really interesting because it's a really good study in nuance, in the fact that multiple things can be true at the same time. So you have the Schoolhouse Rock version, right? That our revolution was for freedom and democracy, and that we were this inspirational, plucky little group of colonists that took on the mighty British Empire. And in getting rid of the king and establishing a democracy, we inspire enlightened revolutions all around the world. And like, it's true. That's accurate, right? Like, I teach that version. It's just incomplete. Because, of course, in any sort of movement that involves tens of thousands of people, there's going to be lots of different reasons why people join. And so the question really is like, well, did our founding fathers have an ulterior motive? Was it really about freedom, or was it about power and control? And my answer is yes, it's both. It was about both. The founding fathers, right, they were the Southern planter aristocracy. They were the Northern wealthy merchants and traders. And of course they wanted more economic control. Of course they wanted more money. They wanted the ability to make more money. They wanted to get rid of mercantilism. They wanted to be able to trade with whoever they wanted. They wanted the British to like stop taxing them. They wanted to have more say over it. So of course it's about power and control, right? They want them gone so that they can be the ones in charge. But that doesn't mean that they also didn't believe that the government that they were eventually going to create would be better than the one they were leaving behind. When I teach about revolutions, I usually just like draw a triangle on the board and I say, if we really oversimplify, most societies can be divided into the ones, the twos, the threes. The threes are always the overwhelming majority. And what happens in most revolutions, at least the first stage, is that people are pissed at the ones for some reason, and it's really easy to get the twos and threes all together to decide we should get rid of the ones. The question becomes what happens after that. And normally the twos and threes devolve into like, well, the threes want to keep going. They want to continue to be radical and continue to like upend this triangle. Haiti would be the perfect example of this, right? Where the enslaved people are like, no, 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 we're getting rid of all of you and we're going to turn this triangle upside down. This would also be like France during kind of the reign of terror, right? But normally the twos win out and they sort of are able to control the tide and control the wrath of the threes so that they end up just basically being the new top of the triangle. So if we're evaluating how radical, how revolutionary was the American Revolution in terms of government change, in terms of like a symbolic kind of new precedent for a new era, massive. It was massively radical, right? I mean, we were getting rid of a monarch, and we forget about the Articles of Confederation. We went so far like anti-monarch that we didn't even have really an executive. We're actually sort of a mess. But if we're evaluating how radical was the revolution in terms of societal change, not really at all, right? We still have, millions of enslaved Black Africans. The people at the top were basically the people already at the top, right? So again, multiple things can be true at once. The American Revolution was incredibly revolutionary and also fairly conservative. The founding fathers were like inspired and enlightened and also self-serving.